Okay, here we go. Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Wednesday, December 16, 2020 Design Review Commission. We have a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Krilling.
Here.
Commissioner Gorney.
Here.
Vice Chair Case.
Here.
And Chair Killian.
Here.
We have a quorum. For the record, Commissioner Belia will be unable to join us this evening.
All right, let's get this legalese stuff out of the way. Pursuant to the governor's executive order N-29-20, city commissioners may participate via teleconference. Teleconference locations are not open to the public pursuant to California governor's executive order N-29-20. For those who would like to participate, the ID number is 989-0430-6423, and the login password is 906-486. If you'd like to join us by telephone, the number is 1-669-900-6833. Okay, moving on, we have item number 2, which is the consent calendar. We have nothing tonight. Moving on to item number 3, which is the public communication. This is the part of the meeting where anybody in the public, if they'd like to make a comment on any item that's not on tonight's agenda, they're welcome to. And I guess there's a 15-second delay, so we'll give you a little bit of time if you'd like to raise your hand or call in or contact Kim via the Zoom.
Nobody's chiming in. Nobody is interested in design review commission. I can't believe that.
Nobody's interested again. Okay. All right, let's move on to item number 4, public hearings. Tonight we have one project. It's the Mercedes-Benz remodel and car delivery edition. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, we do. Let me pull that up. All right, so good evening, Design Review Commission. My name is Jessica Gonzalez, and I'm the project planner for the Mercedes-Benz Design Review application under Y20056. And so getting into the project site, the Mercedes-Benz is located at 1301 Parkside Drive. The 3.92 acre site is located at the corner of Parkside Drive and North Broadway. And the site is improved with the existing dealership building that's approximately 47,000 square feet. The site is zoned auto sales, service, and custom manufacturing, or ASCM, and the site is located within the North Downtown Specific Plan. So the project scope is to remodel the existing showroom, add a new ground floor car delivery space and second floor mezzanine addition, replace and reface all existing signage, add a new outdoor seating area with landscaping, and remove one on-site tree. So here's a street view of the dealership from North Broadway and Parkside Drive. This is the front of the building, which is the showroom, and this is the area that is proposed to be remodeled. As you can see, the existing facade has some blue elements with the blue columns and blue metal outriggers. And so the existing showroom will be remodeled by painting the blue elements black to create a new black and silver color scheme, as shown on the rendering and elevation. They're also proposing a new black aluminum composite panel fin wall. And the new wall will feature vertical fluted accent panels, which will add a modern appearance and tie into the new black and silver color scheme. All other building elements are proposed to remain. And so moving into the addition location for the ground floor addition, the addition is outlined in red. And will occupy what is currently a paved vehicle display ramp area and about 3 of 5 existing parking spaces. The addition will be used as a car delivery space where customers will make their purchase in the showroom and then go to the new car delivery addition to pick up their vehicles. And so in total, 4,221 square feet is proposed to be added to the building. The addition consists of a 3,238 square foot ground floor addition for the car delivery space and a 983 square foot second story mezzanine area. The addition generally matches the existing showroom in terms of colors and materials. And the new black accent panel wall between the existing showroom and the new addition ties into the silver accent panels proposed for the new addition. And so here's a west elevation of the proposed addition displaying the new aluminum composite panels painted silver. And here's the north elevation for the proposed addition displaying the new black panel fin accent wall. And so getting into landscaping and tree removal for the site as is generally complies with the minimum landscaping requirement of 5% with an existing 11% in landscaping. The existing landscaping is in good condition and there are no major alterations proposed. The applicant is proposing to extend an existing planter to the new addition area and add some planter boxes with layered shrubs around the new seating area. The work in this area will require the removal of one flowering pear tree. And the city's contract arborist did evaluate this tree and does recommend the removal based on the poor condition, which includes very large surface roots. And so getting into signage, the existing signage consists of 3 directional signs, 2 wall signs, and 2 freestanding alternate pylon signs. The existing wall signs consist of blue individual channel letters, and the existing pylon signs feature blue cabinets with white text and logo. And so getting into proposed signage, the new wall sign for the service reception area features channel letters with clear aluminum returns and either a black or white translucent face option. Staff does prefer the black lettering option and recommends halo illumination if illumination is sought. For the second wall sign, this is the main business Mercedes of Walnut Creek sign. Again, the applicant is proposing white translucent channel letters affixed to a black cabinet. However, this doesn't match the colors that are proposed on the renderings, which indicate a white cabinet with black lettering. For this sign as well, the staff does recommend black lettering with halo illumination. And then for the 2 freestanding signs, the applicant is proposing 2 new cabinet signs to replace, and they will be like size and height affixed to the existing poles. And they are proposed to be black with white acrylic logo and text. And so as I mentioned, this site is located within the North Downtown Specific Plan, which does have a maximum of 15 feet for the front setback along Parkside Drive. As proposed, the addition does greatly exceed the maximum setback at about 52 feet. However, a waiver to the setback is allowed based on the North Downtown Specific Plan DSG 3.6. And that finding would need to be made by the highest reviewing body, which is the DRC in this case. And so as outlined in the staff report, staff does support the waiver based on the existing site conditions and the project's conformance with other components of the North Downtown specific plan, including the removal of outdoor vehicle display and new outdoor seating areas. And so this is a study session, so staff's recommendation is that the DRC provide the applicant with some preliminary input on the aesthetics of the addition, the tree removal request, new signs, and the consideration of the waiver. And so that does conclude my presentation.
All right, thanks, Jessica. Do we have any questions of staff?
Not for me.
I have a
Charles?
question.
You're on mute,
Good,
Charles. You got to unmute yourself, Charles.
I had the Zoom app. It was behind my PDF. Sorry about that. So I just want to understand the maximum setback. So that means if I think, and looking at the North Downtown specific plan, we're trying to keep things closer to the sidewalk. So we don't want anything more than 15 feet back from the sidewalk. Is that how I would interpret the maximum 15-foot setback?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, then, yeah, I mean, I think I'll save what I was going to say. I'll save that for comments, but that helps me with what I was thinking. So thank you.
So my question is related to that too. So then the exception is qualifying that because they've provided the landscape areas. I mean, so why, sorry, I didn't understand the effort for the waiver.
So the waiver for the setback, we reviewed the North Downtown specific plan, and basically our understanding is when that setback is not achievable or desirable, potentially based on existing conditions, that's why the waivers are allowed. And so for this case specifically, that's where their drive aisle is. So if they were to get any closer, it would really just kind of turn around the whole site configuration. So we worked with the applicant to recommend they comply with other aspects of the North Downtown specific plan, where it's calling for outdoor seating areas and really limited vehicle display. So we were making the case that they were complying with other aspects of the North Downtown specific plan to recommend the waiver for the setback.
Okay.
So
Go ahead, Charles.
yeah, so if this was being all built from scratch, because obviously this dealership's been here longer than I've lived here. If it was a clean sheet design, we'd be looking to get pretty much the entire structure no more than 15 feet away from the sidewalk on Parkside. So if you try and do it for that one small section, it would just look really weird. It'd be like this little appendage. So I think that's why the waiver kind of is making sense to staff, right?
Yeah, and I think it makes a lot more sense for new development, as you mentioned. And I mean, there probably are existing conditions where that could allow for a 15-foot setback, but in this circumstance with the drive aisle up front, it just doesn't make any sense. And we feel that's why the waiver inclusion was included in the North Downtown specific plan, which unfortunately doesn't make the differentiation between new and existing sites.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Right, if I could jump in, that's a good question, Commissioner Krelling. I think the intent of the specific plan was really looking at a brand new development for properties there, and brand new redevelopment of a site. I think, especially with car dealerships, I think we were hoping that buildings could be brought closer up to the street, that the whole plan was more pedestrian oriented, and that vehicle inventory would not be something as prominent on the street in the plan area, that vehicles would be maybe behind buildings and so forth. So I think the intent was really geared toward new development. However, the plan does allow for waivers from the DRC in this case. And that's what the applicant is. Technically, we need to make that that way. If you recall, we did the Target edition, same thing, and it's not something that was really discussed, and probably should have. But Target was in the same position, and not being able to bring that addition all the way up to North Main Street. It doesn't make sense in those situations where you've got an existing building.
Okay, any other questions for Jessica? Okay, the applicant's here. Again, this is a study session, so we'll keep it a little bit less formal. Again, whatever presentation, I don't think we need the whole, if there's a background of Mercedes-Benz, just cut to the chase on this little addition, and we'll just kind of go back and forth and hopefully give our thoughts for when you come back for the final design. So if the applicant's here, if you could introduce yourself and go to it.
Sure, and I think we have a couple people, but I might be the only one being on camera. We have Jigna, who is part of the ownership group, also on here. But I think I'm the only official. Well, there's Jessica. Guess I'm not the only official person on camera. So thank you guys for taking the time to meet with us tonight. My name is Deke Snyder. I'm one of the partner with Gensler Architects and one of the designers and principals in charge of this project. So we've had this project has come up and down a few times, and efforts made to try to sort of meet some of the requirements Mercedes has been asking of the business owner. But I think this is really the first official opportunity to bring in kind of this proposal in front of you guys. So I don't know if the presentation which we had submitted we would want to go through to any degree as a kind of an explanation and sort of a baseline, or explain how this is the first time we've done obviously virtual, how we do it with you.
Normally on a regular commission, we'd have, a little bit more formal. You do a presentation, we have questions and back and forth, but with the study session, it's just back and forth. And if you just want to kind of give us your idea, the design elements, what you want to get across us, and we'll jump in with a couple of questions here and there, but no particular format.
Sure. Well, I guess the examples of, and we had provided in our original presentation, the examples of sort of the corporate ID standards, if you will. And as you guys know, lots of manufacturers have these, and some of them range from very aggressive and prescriptive, and some of them tend to have flexibility with the existing building, especially when it's a renovation of a project. If we're a ground up building, not only would we be subject to a lot of new restrictions, obviously, and input from Mercedes on exactly what they were wanting, but what we have here, and we included a couple of examples in the deck. And I'm not sure if you guys all got a chance to see that, but from kind of a more aggressive Mercedes image, which would be indicative of maybe the Audubon project in Buena Park, which is very much a modern industrial building, steel and glass, an attractive building in some contexts, but also challenging sometimes in different types of municipalities based on the aesthetics. And then other alternatives, which were included, which are similar to the story which is done in Fremont, which was a renovation to a project that was about a 25 to 30-year-old building. Projects in Southern California for Fletcher Jones, which were a building which was originally clad with travertine stone. It was designed before these image programs were ever really conceived. And so those kind of showed the way that they have allowed to apply, if you will, the minimum number of things to meet their image standards. So what you guys have currently in Walnut Creek is really they refer to as Auto House, which is just the name they give to it. And that was when the addition was made to the original building, which added the fluted columns. They're lovingly referred to as George Jetson columns by most people because they've got little rings at the top. But most of it is applied thin metal edge roof, the blue articulated columns, and the signage package. The secondary materials that Mercedes allowed was primarily silver, aluminum type of cladding, and then they allowed you to bring in other materials such as stone or brick or things which were relevant to the particular location. So by and large, this project is a refresh from a color palette standpoint. So everything which was previously blue, they're asking us to change to black. So the signage, which was outlined in the previous presentation made by the staff, the majority of the work is paint. The component of the project which was missing, which Mercedes is requesting for compliance in their standards, is the new car delivery piece, which was also articulated, which is this addition on the ground level. And that is simply to make sure that the customer experience from Mercedes' point of view is complete, that if someone buys a new car, they're allowed to take ownership of it and go through, these days it takes 2 hours to figure out the manual anymore. And they don't want a customer to just be taking it off the parking lot, and they want that handover experience to be both better and also protected from weather and elements, which is why that piece of the project, which this dealership has never had, were to include it. So that really is what necessitated the addition. The articulation of the addition, what we aimed to do was to try to take from the existing building, which was breaking down the scale of it, looking at the articulation with windows. And if you'll notice, or if you noticed in the elevations, rather than doing large overhead doors, which sort of run across the front of those bays, we've elected to choose to do more of a door with a bifolding system, so that when you do see the front of the building, it doesn't look like more of the industrial aesthetic with the big overhead doors kind of running down one side. So it should look more like a modest, maybe even an office component, rather than in a large bay space which is a little bit more like a garage environment. Continuing with the same materials, with the silver ACM, one of the original proposals was black, and that was something Mercedes had been asking for. I think with initial feedback from staff was that the black was too bold and perhaps a little over designed, color palette was a little harsh. So we kind of revised those elements to be silver. And then of course we added the seating, which was one of the other requests.
Do you have a picture of that seating? I'm not clear where that's happening.
Yeah, if I have the ability to share my screen, I'll bring that up. Do that. And I'll, if you'll give me do you guys have my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, so just real briefly, and I'll go back through this much faster. Working from top to bottom, this is Stockton, and below at the bottom is Autobahn, and that is kind of the traditional ground up Mercedes aesthetic. It's very modern, very European. The other ones which are shown here in Ontario, Newport Beach, and Fremont show versions of those types of buildings with the corporate elements shown on the building, but mixed into a different palette. So that's what I wanted to make that alliteration. And then again, the existing of the buildings, which has a good bit of grade change in elevation. That's one of the big challenges, and one of the things that's being done in this building. In addition to doing the car delivery space, we're adding an elevator. We're putting a fire-rated stairs back in. This building was actually built before a lot of the kind of today's expectations of code compliance and fire protection would have been incorporated. So we're taking the opportunity to bring the building up to code. So there's some of that work going on. These elements, the blue columns and the thin metal roof, were probably added, I am guessing probably about 12 or 13 years ago would be my best guess. But those were added to what is the existing building, which has kind of a cut stone face, and then they added the silver in the columns. So on the site, this area which was identified, here's the lowest level which we can meet grade for the cars to be driven out onto the site, and then we're having to deal with internal staircases and getting that elevator to get people up and down between what is effectively a floor that's about 5 feet elevated off of this level. And the outdoor seating area is sort of right down here in the corner where my cursor is, and there's a blow up of that right here. So you can see it's sort of at the end of the structure. There's an area that's been carved out. And fortunately in PowerPoint, zooming in is not quite that easy, but does that answer your question as far as its location and context to the addition?
Yes, so, yeah.
Okay.
Can
And
I
then,
dovetail on that? What are you actually
sure.
sitting on? Planting?
No, they'll be outdoor furniture. They'll be
Oh,
outdoor
okay.
seat. They'll
It's
be
big enough for that.
outsourcing. Yeah,
Okay.
this was the landscape designer just showed the planting schemes and sort of their context plan.
Okay.
Did that seating come after the bioretention area?
I'm sorry, after the bioretention.
Yeah, you have an L-shaped bioretention area there. And
Well, the seating is in the sort of open white space that's shown kind of right here where my cursor is right now.
yeah, I was kind of hoping, I got the feeling, the engineer put the bioretention and you just had this leftover concrete apron, and what else are you going to do with it? You couldn't put a car in there, so you said, let's call it a seating area, but it's not really an organic seating area that works with the space. So I guess
Yeah,
I'm questioning
well,
whether you could redesign that space, to make it all flow together rather than just using a leftover space and calling it a seating area
sure.
for lack of a better space.
Well, in the nature of, and I had the benefit of working through, there's some proposals that were being developed for the Toyota store there in Walnut Creek. And so we're pretty familiar with kind of this piece of a seating area as a public amenity is probably more in context with what the specific plan was looking for, which were public nodes or pocket parks or things like that along the urban frontage. And so if you're familiar with this area, and I put this back up one more time, is the amount of grade change for someone to get from the sidewalk up to this is unlikely at best, I would say. So if it were a matter of turning this around so that if the L shape went the other direction, for instance, I'm sure that would have been conceivably could have been done if that would be preferable. But the change in permeable coverage is generating this very, very small amount of BMP. So I mean, to answer your question, if this seating were rearranged in some manner, I mean, I guess you could change the L shape in one way or another to try to put it closer to the building. But what was recognized in this area is there's a grade change from the front of curb to what is called loading zone of probably about 6 to 7 feet. So you're literally sitting in, as the retaining walls are kind of working up the hill behind you. So I'm not sure it was left over. It wasn't initially part of the project, but it was a request by staff to include it as an effort to try to meet some of the other adjusted pieces of the specific plan requests.
Okay. And those little, to the right of that, as I understand it, the parking spaces, those are going to be eliminated, right? Essentially, they're just parking stripes that would be to the right there where your cursor is.
I think what you've got, I think this is just visual garbage. There are no lines there. The new front edge of the building and the front edge of the curb is being set by the required 24-foot fire lane, which runs around the front of the building, which was one of the considerations why we couldn't bring it forward to the 15-foot setback. Is this is currently the fire access for the building. So there won't be any parking or any cars against that front edge. And number 06, which is located here, you can see that's the existing transformer and incoming power for the building. So there really was no reallocation of space down here in this corner at all. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
Again,
I think
the
it's just
intent here
visually.
is just a study session. So again, let's just keep this kind of free flowing.
Yep. So I think this was just some visual noise. These were just lines, should have been here. Kind of the highlighted area again of the vehicles. I would say that the quantity of cars probably would seem like a lot, but if you guys are aware of kind of the amount of vehicles that are sold through this store, there at any given time on weekends, there are 15 or 20 cars that are being turned over to customers. And right now, one of the big problems is there's no place to put them, which is they're taking it in the service drive, they're doing it on the lot, they're double parking in the fire. I mean, in order to take the car from the from the salesperson to the customer. This is now bringing that to an inside function. So you can see it here, kind of what's really happening. And then all of these stairs and elevators, which are being created to then reconcile the effectively 3 different levels, which are occurring right here in this sort of joint between the new piece of the addition and the old structure.
So those cars, how do they get in and out? Do they go out of those doors when
They do.
the customer takes the car and he goes straight out? Okay.
Correct. So that becomes a 2-person operation where the sales consultant, they pull the doors back, they put hold downs, and they sort of guide the customers out of the space. Those are 8-foot doors when all the leaves are open. So this is pretty conventional way that a lot of cars go in and out of the buildings, is these either a 3-fold leaf or a large bifold leaf door.
Can I jump in there? Which way are
Really,
you
and
planning on
then-
doing it? Can
Sure.
I jump in there real quick? You have
Sure.
2 different drawings. One of them shows bifold, and the one that we have here, you're showing a small man door and a big man door with a fixed glass.
So-
Which way are you going to
so-
do it?
So we still have to do the final engineering for it. When we initially did the project and the renderings, we had been consulting with a client to do a 3-piece door.
Right.
What we're finding as we have been kind of watching the practice is the 3-fold doors have a tendency to sort of unfold themselves and pivot back open. So I think
Mhm.
right now the client has asked us to pursue this 3-0 door with a 5-foot leaf next to it. So you've got 1 large door and 1 small door. So the way it does it on the plan was modified literally in the last week, just to update based on what they're seeing operationally. The style of door just works better for them.
So a 3-foot, a 5-foot, and a 2-foot fixed glass?
No, they're 8-foot openings, so a 3-foot and a 5-foot.
What's the other piece next to it? It looks like there's a wall and then a piece of fixed glass
there's-
next to it.
You have this structural condition that comes down on either side of the door for the jambs. It's not like a curtain wall system where they're all inside of a glass wall there. And I'll go to the elevations here again. You can see now, if you just imagine,
Yeah, that's different.
if you could imagine, one of them is a man door and the other one is just a single leaf instead of 2 together.
Okay.
They will be divided by these pilasters, which would be finished in the silver material.
Okay. It still looks in plan like there's a silver piece and then there's another piece of glass next to it before the 5-foot door. So you'll detail that.
Yeah,
just looking at it.
absolutely.
So,
Okay.
so on that same conversation point, so looking at this rendition, it's all nice and even. It's like the
Mhm.
triplets of the doors, right? So, and
Yeah.
then I'm imagining now wide, narrow. It might look a little odd if you're going to go with those kind of doors. And is there some way to have a?
Well,
like
we could mirror them. We've got 3 pairs, so we could have the 2 narrow and the 2 large, and have that split in three groupings. So we could bring some organizational, structure to it. I totally agree with you. Having a little door, big door kind of cadence. We simply didn't get the elevation updated in time
Got it.
for the submission.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, makes sense.
we did feel like the scale of this addition and having overhead garage doors with all the little 18-inch windows all the way across this thing would probably look a little less front face, if you will. I mean, we
That's
typically like to see that on the rear. So that's sort of that was sort of the decision to move to the doors and then do the large clear story above it. Some little
I think
subtle.
that looks better, by the way, what you're
Oh.
doing there versus a roll up, I think
Right.
looks a lot nicer.
The other thing, just a subtle nod, is if we look at the front elevation as it is now, we basically have butt glazing on the upper portion, so it almost reads like a seamless glass. I'll go back to the renderings. That's probably a little easier to see here. So you can see that there are no mullions on the top. This is basically butt glazing, so you see no vertical lines in this glass. And we tried to take that sort of the reference for this, is that we want it to have the large kind of unencumbered spans of glass at the top, so we can try to find a few things to sort of tie one of the pieces of the building to the addition, so they look a bit more in concert with one another. A couple iterations of this black wall, and I'll say that this was This has now been a pretty substantially revised. The original, scheme, of course, that you send to Mercedes, they look for very bold, large. This is probably, this is probably a good example at the top here. They do prefer to have this black wall extend taller than the building with the star on the top. And I mean, that as you know, manufacturers, they always ask for everything, and we always try to figure out what's reasonable on a case by case basis. We did show this originally because we had to commit to Mercedes that we would show the vision that they had. But as we kind of worked through this with staff, this was brought down, and we basically told Mercedes that they were not going to get the heightened black surface, and they were not going to get the taller star logo, primarily because the star height and size don't correspond or conform to your current sign codes with the height off the ground. So that was an easy one to kind of deflect. The black, however, was requested to maintain, but this will actually act as kind of the seam, if you will, between the old building and the new building. And insofar as right now it's clad in stone, when we make the transition to the new building, we don't have enough of the stone that's 30 years old to extend it and finish it properly. So we chose to use the black as kind of the element of the architecture to sort of tie the two old and new together and give us kind of a reveal piece there that would be, I think, visually kind of disappear, honestly, when it sets back in the darker color and it's underneath the roof overhang.
And they didn't want to do a big Mercedes logo on it low on that wall?
Their corporate standards require that the Mercedes star has to be if the star is on the building, it has to be on the highest element of the building. So they sort of created their own rule that they couldn't come back and then put the star below the roof line. So
Okay.
The Germans are fairly inflexible, as you can imagine, and sometimes their own rules actually work against them. So in this case, it came off.
And that wall is the same height as the stucco wall that hits it? If you look at the bottom drawing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any reason to bring that wall a little higher just so that it has definition?
We could. I mean, I think at once that we
small to me. It seems short to me.
Well, what we were trying to do was also balance and I'll go back to the existing photo here, is this wall kind of hides and tucks in right behind this curve.
Mhm.
What we're doing is we're extending that out slightly. If we saw the building ever in pure elevation, you'd see that the other side has the same wall. We weren't choosing to clad that in black. So we were trying to just balance those two elements. So neither one really stuck out. You could raise it up, and in eventuality, it may need to be raised up slightly just to get the detailing and the copings and waterproofing and all of the, from a technical perspective. But it certainly wasn't what is intended to become a mast that stuck up in a much higher capacity.
Yeah, it just looks a little like the same height as the building. It looks like an extra foot or so would help it, in my opinion. But I could be wrong.
Yeah. The other thing is, and in this lower elevation where it's rendered, you can see we didn't choose to really take the black down the sidewall, only because we felt like at some point it would really become too large or too dominant of a material on the building. And frankly, the lighter tones of the building with the silver, the stone, because there is still going to be some of the stone kind of in the rear here, kind of in the distance. You probably won't see it quite as much anymore, but there was still quite a bit of stone left on the building. So we didn't want to introduce something that looked like a large black box that was sort of jammed into the end of this.
Is that a black tile? Is that a glossy tile or matte?
The metal surface, it's a aluminum composite panel material. So it is actually the same. It is the same as I guess I don't have a great, it's the same material as the silver is now, but it's not a high gloss finish. It's got a more of a matte finish to it.
Okay.
So that really concludes, with these renderers, one of the, with especially with luxury automotive, and especially a dealership that's been in the community for this long, it doesn't bear the necessity to have a ton of signage. People know where this store is. people do most of their shopping online. They can find their way to the store if they're in a neighboring community. So the fact that it's sort of hidden to a large degree with trees already, kind of in the context of the current site, we honestly think a lot of this despite all of our best efforts with architects wanting to do beautiful things, it'll probably go fairly unnoticed, which I think is probably okay.
Are you okay with staff's suggestions on the reversal on the signs?
Well, we need to check, and I want to make sure that somehow we didn't mislead anyone into believing we may not have the. I'll go back to these as example. This black background with white letter is the Mercedes standard, and now I have never requested a reversal of that. I'm not certain that we'll have a lot of flexibility on the background being black and the letters being white, because they're an internal. There is no visible lighting inside the letters, and they're not a halo where the light comes from behind the letter. They are fully enclosed aluminum box letters with the lighting inside of it. So I think we might need to revisit that. You can see in the foreground picture here with the one for Fletcher Jones Motor Cars, that is the style sign that they have moved to kind of corporately across the country. They're all the same, and it's they laser cut out in the black metal material, and then they push through this. The star is actually an acrylic that is pushed through the aluminum face so that it glows from the inside, and the lettering is the same. So I don't know how much flexibility we have in reversing that and doing black letters. I think this is an error on our part to show this in this white with black. I believe it is going to end up being the reverse. So when she
You
brought
could
that,
just paint your current sign, it's blue now, just paint those black and you have it.
So,
yeah, if the
Lynn-
sign companies only allowed you to do that, they're looking for the extra sale. It is literally take this one down and put the next one up, and keep all the power in place, all the dimming and all that.
Could you go back to the other one that showed the other showrooms?
Sure.
What's the one, the lettering in Ontario? Is that a black background? It just doesn't show? Or is it almost like a silver background?
So this picture was taken prior to converting the building to the black color tone. I went through Google Earth, and unfortunately Google has not revisited the site and since we changed the coloring. But what you're looking at here is a blue painted surface which has been repainted black, and the black box sign. Actually, the one on Fremont, you can see the sign is actually proud of the actual blade sign.
Yeah.
And that's just because it was an older generation store, so they didn't require us to tear the whole thing down. They actually just let us put a new face on the actual sign. The new signs are flush, which is more like the one above. They look a lot less like a box sign, which I think is a response to a number of communities and municipalities in their sign ordinances restricting the use of what traditionally is kind of cheap retailers that do a box with an acrylic face on it. So they've updated their signage to be a little bit more sophisticated than that.
And the idea of signs on a silver background is just not their thing now, right? They want white on black. And you'll give that to us in a rendering next time we see it.
Yes. Yes, we can. Yes, we
So
can.
Lynn is here. I'm with the sign company. Can you all hear me as well? Okay. Yeah, so the presentation that Jessica showed would be the approved colors for the Mercedes-Benz. They would not make an exception to do silver with black letters at this time.
Unless it's not approved by design review, in which case they won't have a choice.
Right.
I mean, we'll
But
look at it, obviously.
Yeah, I mean, I think the alternative may be, I can't speak for them because we'd have to take it back to them. But the black face letters simply won't have light in them if we have a black face. There are other manufacturers that make something that looks black during the day and lights up at night, but it's not with this particular sign vendor. So I don't know if that's going to be an option for them.
What would be the lighting now we're looking at these now and we have the white background with the black. How would that be lit?
That's why I'm saying I think the illustration is inconsistent with what the sign company is currently manufacturing. I don't know if this is really an approvable elevation. So I apologize again. I think we've got a signage shown here, which may or may not be able to be fabricated the way it's illustrated. So now if you guys feel strongly about the white and the black, we can talk to Mercedes and we can talk to the signage company to see if there's a way to do that, but it would not be their current standard. So I mean that obviously is a battle we'd have to take up with them.
And in this case, the white would be like a metal box with black letters, which
It's
doesn't appear anywhere else on the building.
Yeah, it's an aluminum material. So the current letters what you have is a silver metallic back.
Yeah.
And then the blue letters and when the lights are on, they glow blue. So they look blue at night, they look blue during the day. Yeah. Like I mentioned, we only have one other manufacturer we've worked with that has a black letter that will appear to light up at night, but it's not the same company that builds these signs for Mercedes.
It's too bad. I like the silver back on that. I think the silver back goes with the building better, but we'll look at it, I'm sure, in the next presentation.
Yep.
All right, I think we've got an idea. Casey, do you have any comments or questions or anything?
Yeah, so with the sitting area that was made available, and I understand that it's, trying to meet some of the requirements of the specific plan, but it does feel like it's just a due diligence effort, you know what I mean? It doesn't really feel like anyone would ever use it. On the civil plans, the grading plan, I can see there's a concrete sidewalk that occurs between the back of the planting area and the adjacent building. So I don't think that leads into the showroom. But for a minute, I was like, well, maybe it interacts with that sidewalk or something, but it's not grounded in anything. So it's just, I don't know. It just doesn't hugely feel like it has a purpose, and I can't even visualize who would ever sit there. And so I found myself just questioning the value of that. And this plan does show the benches, because I wasn't quite sure of how that configuration looks. So that was my tidbit about that. I'm kind of do you walk through the parking lot to get there? And it's not really near the showroom. So is it after you've bought your car, but then you're already driving out with your car? It's not really grounded in anything.
It was a late request from staff, and it was really trying to find where it could possibly go on the site. If you guys are familiar with the site, this is a terribly constricted building. It's based on the circulation around it, car traffic, and even just walking around it is very, very tight. So I'm not going to disagree with you that it kind of feels like a bolt-on, because we had to find the only place we could still put it after the minimum footprint for the addition was done. So you're not making that up. It is not conceived originally with the design.
Yes.
Is this Jessica? Are you there? Was this one? I think we were looking at Ford or Nissan along Main Street, and those projects, they had some seating areas, I think, out along the main frontage. Is this the same guidelines as driving this?
I'm not familiar with those seating areas, sorry.
Yeah, I don't think so, Brian. I think the specific plan not only looks for buildings to move forward towards the street more pedestrian, but it also includes respite areas, seating areas, that kind of thing. So that's kind of where that came from. So it's a little bit different than Ford and Nissan, but I think staff was just looking to try to incorporate some of the directives from the specific plan if we couldn't get that building up closer to the street.
Okay, but it might be the intent then, the pedestrians that would normally be walking along the public sidewalk along North Broadway or Parkside, then maybe if they put a bit, carved out a little bit of the lawn and put a bench there, it might be more useful and more in the spirit of that guideline. Is that, as I'm understanding it?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's some great differences there. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Well,
if
yeah,
it-
there'd be but I mean, is the intent for the public, or was this be, I mean, the way they're showing, it's gonna be more for, you know, the Mercedes-Benz customers using it and not for the public at large? Is that what the intent is?
No, I think it was mainly for the intent was for the public, right?
Yeah.
But the building has moved forward. It encourages pedestrian activity along the sidewalks and streets, looking for respite areas, nodes, seating areas for the pedestrian.
The corner right near the traffic signal has, you know, a little landscape bulb out. I mean, if we're talking about other opportunities for a seating place
Yeah.
of respite or there, you know, but there's probably signage there. So I was thinking actually.
There's signage. I think that's also where the incoming gas service, there's a bit of infrastructure there that is I believe at street level.
Mhm.
Could you, even to cut it into that berm on the bottom right, to, you know, so that you could walk between the cars. I mean, it's a nice place to have, because as you're contemplating spending all this money on a car, it's good to be able to sit somewhere and kind of talk to your significant other about it and, you know, decide what you're going to do. It's nice to have that space.
Mhm.
The other one isolated on the end, more like a place you go smoke cigarettes. And so
You know,
I think it needs to be designed.
it's funny you say that, because I was just going to say that where that is, because I've been on this walk through here many a time, and it did seem like that's where the employees are going to go on their breaks to have a cigarette or a cup of coffee. I couldn't agree with you more. I just don't see a customer. I see a customer more likely to go to the lounge with the fancy coffee machine and the cookies and stuff. And I do like the idea of, if you could do something out in front where that lawn is some way, where that might be more inviting to people walking by who might not even be buying a car.
Yeah.
They'll sit there and dream about buying one day.
Well, I don't know off the top of my head if there's any other obstacles to going on along that sidewalk, but if that's something that we'd like to look at, to explore, we certainly could do that. We just have to look at the civil and see if there's much in the way of any type of utility easements or anything else that's out there to kind of see, you know, maybe not visible in the photo, but something we just need to be aware of. But, you know, if it's a matter of a space the same size that we had proposed, and a bench the same as we had proposed, and it's just relocating it to the public way on the sidewalk, where it is actually in a public amenity, I think that's certainly more in the spirit of what the specific plan was trying to achieve. So
Also, you might, you haven't addressed, I think staff said you hadn't addressed your public art, and that may be a way of making that your public art element, that bench, you know, so maybe you take care of two issues by doing that. So
You also said that the architecture is kind of hidden behind the trees. It allows you to kind of bring something out into the landscape in the street that introduces the building. You know, it could be a curve that matches the curve on the building. There's a lot you could do with it if it's designed, I think.
The other thing, I think the chair maybe mentioned this, if you go back to the slide that shows the
plan,
just the next slide. Yeah. I look at this, and if this is going to be a valuable place, I'm even thinking if you're going to put art there, you know, how the L is, I would envision it be sure a lot more inviting and more appealing if there was glass on that right side of the new addition that's looking out to the benches or the art or whatever. Because now you got to go out. How do you even get there? You got to go out through those doors, which, you know, where the cars go in and out, and kind of walk around to get there. And it's like it's just hidden off.
sure.
So
Yeah. My other just suggestion, comment, thought, whatever. The landscape plan was really hard to read. The symbols were so teeny tiny. It was like difficult to tell what was going where. And luckily I like had it digitally, but I'm like blowing it up as much as I can.
Yeah.
So I think that if maybe this whole area is reprogrammed and it turns out it's just bioretention and kind of back of house, then it doesn't hugely matter. But some of the plants that are there in the bioretention, in my experience, like they disappear completely in the winter. And so that'll look pretty unsightly. If you're not putting people on benches right next to it, it may not matter, but I just don't know that that's quite the look you want. And I see that it's taking out a pear tree because the pear tree like wasn't in great condition. So I don't know that you want to put a pear tree back in, but I will confess I have like a personal vendetta against pear trees because they had their heyday and I hate them now. But that was just a thought. If you guys are attached to pears, I don't hugely care. It just seems you may not want to.
I don't think the client would be concerned of it's probably there's probably an approved list of species and with a arborist and that was to select from, so we probably just put back what was there. But I mean, if that will bother you in the future, we would be happy to take it away.
I just think at their heyday they need.
You won't sit there by the bioretention and contemplate your hatred of pear trees.
Casey, I just
Same with that bioretention area. I don't know with the grade changes how high that is, but again, with the sophistication of the Mercedes-Benz buildings and everything, I would like to see a section of that, and maybe that's the same black or something, but I don't want it to be just concrete.
Yeah.
So again, I think that it needs to be a design element that fits in with the overall building.
Yeah, I to be honest, I need to study some of the details of the bioretention section because, you know, with as limited as it is, I'm frankly surprised if we were to put the sidewalk oriented bench type of configuration and the remainder of this were used for bioswale, then based on the depth and the shallowness of it and basically in the limited amount of water it really is technically trying to sort of process, if you will, it really could become more of a swale that's fully vegetated and it just really just looks like a landscape bed that's got a little bit better percolation rate with the what's below the dirt.
Well, I have some fun with it. I mean, it doesn't have to be, you know, an engineer drew it and all they know how to do is right angles. You know, maybe it's the logo on the floor, you know, the seating area,
Yeah.
you know, maybe it comes different pods, but
I thought it was the
nothing
architects that
says-
just did straight lines. Landscape
you know,
people pull out the OG curve.
Yeah, but you know, it's a throwaway space, so have some fun
Yeah.
with it and make it work so that people are going to enjoy being in that space.
Yeah, I'll go back and we'll look at the end wall and understand part of the challenge. And there might be a reason why it was solid. It may have been one of the shear wall conditions because when you do a new addition and most of one side is all glass, the engineers are always looking for something to stiffen it up from a seismic perspective. But if there is landscape to be seen there, then you know a window at natural light is certainly not a bad idea. So I guess the takeaways if we can revisit the pocket park or the seating being on the public way, that would be preferred, and then doing something a little more deliberate with the landscaping in this corner is those are the two main themes that are coming away from this conversation.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's try to wrap it up. I think maybe just have everyone give their thoughts on signage, the building, and the
Can I still ask
landscaping.
questions? We haven't really finished questions yet.
Sure.
You don't mind, Brian? Is that okay?
Yeah. No, I was just, you know, this is just a study session, so I was throwing it all together. So go ahead.
You're doing some major accessibility upgrades. It looks like you're adding 7 handicap parking spaces where you have 2 in that one corner.
Uh-huh.
It looks like you're going to have a hard time fitting all those with your wheel stops and the pathway and the ramp. So I'm assuming you're going to study that a little closer for the next. I mean, I see wheel stops there, but it seems really tight from having been there before. So I'm assuming you're and that 7 is enough. That's the correct number for the building.
Correct.
Okay.
We are running this. I mean, this is being reviewed by Public Works for all the ADA compliance and so forth. So they will comply if they're being proposed.
They check ADA. That's amazing. Usually it's just California state accessibility. Okay. One other one. You're showing a new elevator, but you're not showing it descending all the way down to the new delivery area.
It does.
Why is that?
Let me see if the plan will.
I'm assuming you will do it with a 2 entrance
Yeah,
elevator.
so it's a 2 entrance elevator,
Okay.
right? So you'll enter at the ground level, you'll come up, your first stop will be you know,
Okay.
plus or minus 5 to 6 feet and come out the other side, and then
Good.
it'll continue up and come out on the second floor.
Good. We've had them before where people don't access the whole building and it sort of annoys us. So I'm glad to hear that because you can't see it
All-
in this drawing.
All
Thank you.
levels need to be accessible.
And then your multi-use room upstairs, that's not a conference room. It's not going to need 2 exits. It's small enough that it's not going to have an issue with exiting.
I'm looking for the plan that you were referencing.
Right there, multi-use.
This right here?
No, the one.
Oh,
at the bottom,
multi-use.
The new one. Keep going.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yes.
That has been discussed as a team room. Will have it doesn't exceed the 750 square feet for a 2x maximum or more than a single door. I think the program is still a little malleable as to whether that'll have more like a training tables in it or more furniture, but it's certainly not going to be a totally open room.
Okay.
We
And I'm
know.
assuming, good.
I'm sorry.
I'm
That was
assuming also with your bifold doors and your doors that you show here, they're going to have a 10-inch kick on them for accessibility also.
of course.
You
All
show
of,
glass right to the floor, so I was just wondering.
yeah, no, there'll be a full aluminum frame door with the toe kick, and then any hardware is handicap accessible and California accessible.
Thank you. That's my only questions.
All right, let's see if anybody else, again, this, repeating myself, a study session. I personally don't have any problem with the addition. The signage, I don't know, typically we don't like white, you know, lit up. I'm wondering if maybe as a halfway point, if they go the black background and silver letters so that the silver reads as a lighter material, but it's not the bright white. But again, I think the signage is, you know, something that needs to be worked out. So I'm, you know, ready to see the next rendering of this. Again, that seating area, from a public point of view, you know, it's really not, but it's not, I don't know, just see what happens. You've heard our comments, and I'd like to see, you know, how you could solve it to make it usable with the intent of the guidelines being more accessible to the public at large, rather than just a, you know, leftover space. But in general, I think you're going in the right direction, from my opinion. So if anybody else would like to chime in.
Yeah, I agree with what Brian just said, and I agree that the waiver makes perfect sense on this site because it's an addition. So and I would still again look at the hierarchy in that wing wall. I like when wing walls aren't the same height as others. It's got to almost have its own architecture. So I would just look at how it intersects with the wall around it and the height, and maybe make it a little bit taller. That was it.
Just question on the new multi-use room. Is that additional new structure, or is that just using existing space?
So so what is shown here in white, which is so the building, the existing condition. Let me start with that, just so it's more clear. So what's shown here is basically a symmetrical plan with 2 open radial staircases that are basically monumental stairs on both ends of the showroom. So the building is symmetrical. When we cut that old staircase, the monumental stair off, and we come back, what we effectively do on the left-hand side, you can see, is we build a new fire-rated stair inside the same space, and then we take that directly to the outside. So that now meets the requirement.
Mm-hmm.
On the right-hand side, what we needed to do was come back far enough to tie it to tie into existing structure. So we're basically building behind this little piece of the wall, which was existing, this additional piece. So we had increased it by maybe about 40% in length. And that is being built as a new piece of structure, the full height to match the current showroom. So it gave us, if you will, some bonus space on the second floor just over that. So it ties into the existing balcony. The existing balcony ties back to the new elevator, which this would technically be outside by today's standards. And so that room is just kind of the byproduct of, so we don't have a a double height space at the end that just has a big blank wall. So we were able to recapture a little bit of interior space there.
Okay, great. And I like the addition, and a part of what I like about it is it's filling in what seemed like almost wasted space on that side of the showroom. And I also like how it sort of extends the perimeter of the building to continue to match the way the road and sidewalk goes. I think it's a nice addition to the building.
Thank you.
Yeah, I like the color change as well. I think that the black and white palette, granted it's the standard, but I prefer it. It seems a lot cleaner and simpler.
Okay.
Okay.
So we'll make our changes and now go back to you guys for, I know there's a process in place. I'm off the top of my head, I know there's a few more steps to go, but we'll put together take these comments under consideration, put them back into a package and have them returned.
Great. Thank you very much.
If I could, just for my own edification, could you ask for any public input just in case?
Oh, that's right. We kind of left them out this time, didn't we? All right. At this point, we'll open it up for the public. Again, if anybody would like to join us, the ID number is 989-0430-6423. Password is 906-486. Telephone is 1-669-900-6833.
Yeah, we received nothing in writing, so I'll just mention that. And it does not look like any of the public is chiming in at the moment. Thank you.
One last question. Deeg, what's that red stairway behind? Are you home or are you in the office?
No,
It's
this
cool.
is this is our office. This
okay.
is my house is, one, we're not in our offices at this point still, and two, it's more impressive than the sort of living room in the background here.
Okay. I was very impressed by the red. Looks great.
It is cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I look good on the Mercedes-Benz, red and black.
All right, guys. Thanks for your time tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you. We'll close the public hearing and move on to the next item. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys.
Next item is number 5, commission considerations.
There are none, Mr. Chair.
Is that the open comment kind of spot, or is that coming up?
That's the next one, item 6.
Okay, item 6. Charles, we're on the commission member and staff reports.
I just wanted to say, in respect of Casey's love for pear trees, that my court that I live on, which is about 20 years old, got rid of, I think, maybe the last pear tree orchard in the city of Walnut Creek. So I thought that would make you happy.
Oh, I don't know. An orchard I feel bad about, but as an ornamental tree, it drives me crazy.
You know, Charles, I think you can tell in landscape, about every 10 years, we have favorite trees that are in vogue.
Yeah.
And then they go out for whatever reason. So you can kind of tell what time frame that design was installed by the type of trees.
Interesting.
I think the pear trees, you know, are on their way out now. But Ken, I have a question staying with landscape. I know companies are in hard times and people are leaving, and on Mount Diablo Boulevard, Pier 1 has left the building. It's on the corner of Mount Diablo and I don't know if that's Bonanza or not, but
yes,
yeah,
the landscape out front just looks completely, no one's done anything, and it looks just, you know, abandoned. The lawn is gone to heck and weeds and everything. And I don't know if there's anything the city can do for the owner to at least try to maintain it for the public image, you know, but it really looks ratty out there.
Yeah, I can look into that. It's my understanding Pier 1 is no longer. Is that your understanding?
Right, but I don't know the owner of the property. Do
Right.
they have some responsibility to at least do minimal maintenance?
Yeah, I can look into that. Yeah, I think you brought, or somebody brought that up on Broadway Plaza as well. And
That was me.
Yeah, I have noticed them out there trying to fix that up. It was a COVID thing. They'd sent everyone home for a long time, and the landscaping got out of control. But I see that they're working on that now. But I can look into Pier 1.
On a similar vein, if we see there's a veterinary building on Treat that has some really tacky looking signs that I know DRC would never have approved because they're boxes with just white plastic panels and red letters on it, and you can see the conduit coming out the side. I'm sure that was put up without any blessing. Do I let you know, or or do I go to code enforcement, or what do we do when we see signs that were like, there's no way that was ever really approved?
You can let me know, and I know exactly the building you're talking about.
Okay.
It happens to be in the county,
I was gonna say,
so
is it in Woodland Creek?
Oh,
it's not our responsibility, and it's not my fault. So I won't take any blame for that. Every time I drive by there, I say to my wife, I think there's a veterinary hospital around here somewhere, isn't there? And she rolls her eyes. Probably
Okay.
one of the most hideous examples of signage in the county right there.
yeah, no kidding. Thanks.
Yeah, we had talked about that once before because there was a few buildings in town that had closed, and the front windows were very dusty, and there was mail stuck in the slot, and some of the buildings are now being used, but some of them would get pretty ratty, and so it's good to keep an eye on them.
Yeah, I certainly bring anything up like that to my attention. We do have code enforcement officers. We've got two code enforcement officers who are absolutely swamped with the COVID rebound program, and restaurants in particular, and the pop-ups happening in the city's right of ways, and businesses ratting on each other, and it's absolutely incredible. So, but we do have code enforcement officers who can look into things for us.
Okay, any more reports or announcements?
Oh, you know what? Let me know if you're not receiving your packets in the mail.
I got mine.
Well, I
Did you?
get mine Wednesday afternoon, Ken, so it
Yeah.
gives me plenty of time.
Yeah, today, right?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I hadn't, my mail hadn't shown up before the meeting, but I have not received the packet. But of course, I don't mind going online. But it's interesting because I was getting them usually on Saturday. So something's going on with the post office. Maybe Santa's filling up the pipeline.
Yeah, I wonder. I talked to Carlos, and he hasn't received his last 2 packets. So, okay, I'm just trying to keep track of and find out what's going on there. So I'll let you know. But let me know if you do not receive a packet. And there's always the option too of coming by City Hall, and Christine can run those down to you. So you'll have those in your hand if you want to take advantage of that option.
All right, with that, everyone have happy holidays. I guess we won't see each other till after Christmas, if
Have a
I'm
good holiday. I agree.
mistaken. So with that, we're in adjournment.
Thanks, Brian.
All right.
All right.
Great holiday. Bye.
Happy holidays.
Ciao.
Yow.